Hi, welcome to One Eye on the Page. I'm Scott. This is my first YouTube video. If this is your first time here, please like and subscribe. This week I'm going to go and start on a vlog, but over the next few weeks, months, etc., I'm going to be doing many different special videos, including one of my first ones where I am going to be ranking Stephen King books by 5-year gaps. So the first one that I will be doing would be between the years of 1974 and 78, then 79 to 83, and so on until present day. And for each year gap, I will pick the best book of that 5-year period, and then I will have like a top 10 from the 10 different groups. Before I get into the vlog, I just want to talk a little bit about why I'm here, besides my overwhelming need to have attention paid to me. My daughter Robin, who puts videos on YouTube as a Hobbit's reading list, kind of made me think that I would want to do it. And the two of us also do a podcast together going over the books of PG Wodehouse. That's called I'll Be Dashed, a Wodehouse podcast, which you can find on Spotify or Apple or pretty much any podcast site. I call this One Eye on the Page because I was talking to Rob and I was like, well, I don't know if I want to do videos because, well, people may make comments about certain things. Besides the fact I got a bit of a gut here, but also you may have noticed or haven't noticed, this one's different than this one. And it's like, how should I approach it? And it's like, I don't know, I should just call my site One Eye on the Page. And Robin said, that's a great idea. So that's how I have decided to remove attention from it, by drawing attention to it. My daughter specializes in mainly Jewish fiction and LGBTQ fiction. I specialize in nothing really. I'm a jack of all trades. I read a little bit of everything. I get on tangents. The last 3 or 4 years, I've read like specific authors. Like in 2020, I read all the works of Stephen King, which I'd already read before, but I read all the works again, one right after another. Last year, I read all the novels and short story collections of Agatha Christie, not counting the ones that she did under her pseudonym. And after I finished Agatha Christie, I started on PG Wodehouse, who I'd only read 2 or 3 novels of before. And now I'm about 70 books in, which is one of the reasons Robin and I started a podcast, because we wanted to go over it with the approach of somebody who has read it and somebody who has not read it in Robin, which perhaps she's regretting this a little bit, but that's fine. But I read all over the place. I don't have a set genre that I read. So if you're here for a specific genre, I'm not that guy. If you have a book that you think I should read, please feel free to comment. I already have plans of reading books in genres that I generally don't read. I just purchased books for one of those. I've read something in pretty much every genre. So that's just a little bit of an introduction to me. Tomorrow, the regular vlog starts. Okay, it's Sunday, April 30th. I wanted to go a little bit over some of the books that I plan on reading over the next month. I had made a TBR originally, but I had some issues with the volume. And then I thought TBRs don't really work very well for me, because if I end up encountering a book that I decide I don't want to finish, having made a TBR means I will have to finish it. It's just something in my very nature that makes it so I have to. So, well, I'm not going to be doing TBRs except possibly for very specific reasons. I'm going to go over a few books that I do plan on reading. Today I haven't read much, and I believe I will be finishing the collected letters of PG Wodehouse tonight. But starting tomorrow, and I'm not necessarily going to be reading all these books starting tomorrow, but these are the books that I plan to read. I have this book, that Louder and Funnier by PG Wodehouse. It's a collection of essays by him. Cat. I don't know how it's going to be. I really love PG Wodehouse's fiction, but having read his letters and also reading his biography, he as a novelist is superbly funny. PG Wodehouse himself wasn't really known for being that humorous. Perhaps in his essays that will continue the case as it was in the novels, but we'll see about that. So that's one of the ones I plan on reading over the next month. The Glass Ocean by Beatriz Williams, Lauren Willig, and Karen White. Don't really know a lot about this book. It is a book club book that Robin, who posts on YouTube at a Hobbits reading list and also hosts a podcast with me called I'll Be Dashed, picked this. She's already read it. She loves it. I believe she gave it a 4.5 out of 5. The Wreck of the Lusitania, from the perspective of two people who were on the Lusitania, and also another person in 2013 whose I believe great-grandfather was on the ship. So don't really know much about it yet. It's historical fiction, but other than that, I don't really know. PG Wodehouse again. This is a novel, If I Were You. It's about two people who were switched at birth. I'm going to put it over here since I got the light over here. Who were switched at birth. One is a earl and one is a barber. And the barber's mother is the one who switched them. She's actually the earl's mother. And it seems to be another PG Wodehouse hijinks kind of thing. It's not a very well-known Wodehouse book. We will see, because I'm getting to the tail end of all the Wodehouse books that I have got to read, and I've kind of got where I'm reading a bunch of school stories and a bunch of books that aren't really as well known. 50 Words for Rain by Asha Lemmie. Another book I don't really know a lot about. It's a book I kind of picked up on a whim because I was looking for books for me to pick as a book club book, because I get to pick next after Robin. And I don't want to pick a book that I particularly know that I love, because I don't want people to judge a book that I love to my face and I feel bad about it. But, I haven't read this yet. It's also a little bit too long for our book club anyways, but I still plan on reading it, because our book club has a limit of 400 pages, and this one's like 449. So, if it was just a little bit over 400, it'd still be good. The Subtle Art of Not Giving Enough. It seems like it's a self-help book. I don't mind self-help books. My problem that I usually have with self-help books is that there's about 20 pages of useful information, and then it's like over 200 pages long. That may not be the case with this book. So this is a book that my wife had bought, and it's just been around the house, and I've never picked it up. And when I was making choices for the TBR, I was like, I need a nonfiction book, because I said this in my TBR video, but of course I'm not posting that because the volume on it is horrible. I don't do very well at just reading one book at a time. I don't know if it's ADHD or something like that. That there's something in me that makes it hard for me to read one book at a time. So I will switch between books. So I usually read a fiction book, a short story collection, a nonfiction book, sometimes a book of poetry, a book on audio book, um, and something on Kindle. You know, I try not to read too much of the same types of things because then they mash up, but I like to spread it around. So there's that. John Steinbeck. I'm going to be reading Tortilla Flat. He describes it kind of as a little bit like King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, kind of set in early 20th century America. It's a John Steinbeck book. I don't expect it to end happily, but I expect some good writing. I have read The Grapes of Wrath and Of Mice and Men, and also Travels with Charlie, which was a nonfiction book of his, and some short stories of his, and I've enjoyed all of them. Not been super happy after I read them, but they've been enjoyable. I am also going to be reading a couple of audiobooks. All right. I will also be reading The Marlow Murder Club by Robert Thorogood, which is supposedly a cozy mystery, which I usually enjoy. I will talk a little bit about ones that I don't enjoy, but it's that I'm going to be listening to that on audiobook. And I will also be listening to Authentically, Izzy by Pepper Basham. That's a book I just picked up on a whim, quite honestly, as an audiobook, because the main character in it is a Lord of the Rings enthusiast who wants to own a bookstore. And I was like, oh, that's my daughter, Robin. So that's basically why I picked it up. It's a romance, not much of a big romance reader, but we'll see. I am also, and I've started already, reading Agatha Raisin and the Quiche of Death by MC Beaton. Honestly, the only reason I am reading this right now is because I had it on my TBR and I gotta finish it. I read 9 books by MC Beaton before in the Hamish Macbeth series, because I had gotten 4 of them as a gift from Robin for Christmas. She kind of picked them up on a whim, mainly because of titles: Death of a Gossip, Death of a Cad, Death of a Hussy, Death of an Outsider. And I liked the first couple Hamish Macbeth novels. And with each subsequent novel, it got worse and worse. And they're bad books with unlikable characters. And Hamish Macbeth, the village constable, was at the beginning somewhat likable, somewhat the only likable person, but he's gotten worse as the novel's going on. So I'm like, okay, I'm done with Hamish Macbeth. But she also has Agatha Raisin, who is a woman. I don't know her age quite. Probably in the 50s or early 60s. And she moves to a small village. And in the novel that I'm reading right now, she makes a quiche for a contest, and it kills a person. And so she has to solve this murder that people think that she did. I'm not giving away any spoilers because that's pretty much, the tagline there. And also when I said she made a quiche, she didn't make a quiche. She bought it from a store and pretended it was her own. And the only reason I am finishing this book is because they put it on my TBR list, which is why I say again, I'm not doing TBRs because this book sucks. It sucks. MC Beaton is not anybody I'm going to ever read again. I was like, I'll read this because this will be like MC Beaton, and you wouldn't know it by reading some of her writing, but she is a female author, writes some of the most misogynistic stuff that I've read. But I'm like, Agatha Raisin, oh, this is her Miss Marple. Nope. So that's what I'm doing. Tomorrow I will start going over the stuff that I'm reading. Okay, it's Monday, May 1st. I've not done much reading today. For one, my kid was sick today, so I didn't drive him to school, which meant no audiobook, which meant that I did not have to listen to the MC Beaton book, which, all in all, good thing. I did read a little bit of Louder and Funnier, just the opening intro page, not even one of the essays. I'm probably going to be reading another book tonight, not an entire book obviously, but part of one. Maybe the other Wodehouse book that I plan on reading this month, if I were you. I decided to, because they were not on any type of TBR, but I decided to DNF Owen King's The Curator that I was reading last month that I just could not get into. So I have set it aside. I may try to read it again later. Part of the problem is that I was reading a bunch of books pretty much at the same time, and this one just wasn't grabbing me, and I was like skipping paragraphs, phrases, pages. So it's like, well, I'm not giving it the benefit it deserves. I also decided to not DNF, but I'm for the moment setting aside a E.W. Hernig book about the master criminal A.J. Raffles. I read the first short story collection, and it was good. And the second one isn't quite as good. I'm like on the fourth to last story in it, and probably at some point I will finish it, but just not at the moment. Hernig was Arthur Conan Doyle's brother-in-law, and he actually wrote Raffles kind of as the bad version of Sherlock Holmes. And he has a sidekick also, and nobody compares to Dr. Watson as a sidekick as far as like in the mystery or adventure genre. And if you want to hear more of my thoughts on Dr. Watson, you can listen to the podcast that Robin and I do, I'll Be Dash, for the book Mike at Riken. We cover it even though it's not at all about Sherlock Holmes. But anyway, so I will read more tomorrow, and I will see you then. Okay, it is Tuesday, May 2nd. Did not do a lot of reading today. I read the first essay in Wodehouse's Louder and Funnier. It does have humor in it. I don't think the humor necessarily works as well in an essay as it does in his fiction. But again, I've just read the first essay, so it could get better. The first essay is about writers in Hollywood. And Wodehouse was a writer in Hollywood for a bit of time, and he didn't have fond memories of it, although he did make fairly decent money for, I won't say not doing anything, for not doing anything that ended up on screen, or at least not much that ended up on screen. I don't know if the rest of the essays are going to be the same way, but, it was amusing. I've also, after listening on and off over the last week, have moved further along in MC Beaton's Agatha Raisin and the Quiche of Death. I have a problem, personally, reading or watching cringy stuff like a lot of The Office, or stuff like that, where where people may be doing like this, just kind of like, one of my kids likes to watch 911 and 911 Lone Star, and we watch it together, and there'll be many times while we're watching, I will just get up and kind of go into the kitchen and peek around the entryway because it's just hard to watch. And that's how I feel about this book, at least part of it. Like the part where Agatha Raisin is a elderly woman in her 50s, maybe early 60s, I think 50s though, who's retired from a public relations career and has moved to a small village where she doesn't feel like she fits in. So she enters a quiche contest, but she can't cook. So she goes to London and buys a quiche from a very good restaurant or bakery and enters it in the contest. It doesn't win. I'm not telling you anything that the back of the book doesn't tell you right now. And she basically is like, ugh, and she says, just keep the quiche. And somebody takes a couple slices of the quiche home that night, and her husband eats it and dies of poisoning. And of course, the cops come to talk to Agatha, and they realize that they believe it's accidental poisoning, not anything to do with anything that Agatha has done. So I'm like 40% of the way in listening to it on audiobook. I could go into detail about MC Beaton, who, as I've said, I've read the Hamish Macbeth books on. None of the characters are likable. I am going to finish this book because I need to finish this book, but definitely going to be the last one. I don't know when it was written. I know that the Hamish Macbeth book started in the 80s. I think maybe Agatha Raisin may have started in the 90s, but I'm not positive. But it's got some... Agatha Raisin had some people stay at her place over the weekend, a former employee of hers and his friend. Now, there's been nothing said about the relationship of these two men, but one of them, Roy, has been described as prancing and doing cartwheels. And the other one, Steve, I believe, watches birds and takes deep detailed notes about Tor, and both of them have kind of, at least the way they're read and kind of the way they're written, in effeminate voices. So I mean, you can kind of see what Beaton is trying to say about them without actually coming out and saying it. And she, in like previous books, the Hamish Macbeth books, also had like cross-dressers in it, as it was described in the book. And people, she seems to be and oh, I have a cat here. There you go, right there. You see, come on, there we go. There you are. All right. She seems to be, or she presents her novels as somebody who enjoys old-fashioned values more than maybe a modern approach. In which I'm used to that with books. I mean, like I said, I'm a big fan of Agatha Christie and PG Wodehouse, and like definitely in some of their books they kind of express, especially as they got older, a bit of disdain for modern culture, which is one reason Wodehouse tended to stay, even when he was no longer living in England, and even when you have all modern advances, still kind of live in this like little subsection of early 20th century England. That's all for today. I hope to have some more read tomorrow. I will definitely be listening to more MC Beaton at least to get further along to to get done with it. So see you tomorrow. Okay, it's Wednesday, May 3rd. Getaway cat. Um, today I read a bit more of sorry, cat down here. I read a I read a bit more of I, I read a bit more of Beaton's Agatha Raisin and the Quiche of Death. Uh, I'm about 2 hours away from finishing, so I should finish probably on Friday. Uh, it's gotten better. It's gotten a little bit past the awkward stages of the cringe stages. I do have to make a correction. I commented that whoa, get away from there. I commented that a couple of the characters kind of seem like gay caricatures. Uh, Discovered today that apparently neither of them is gay, but that Agatha Raisin assumed they were gay, and still kind of came across as commentary about uh, a little homophobic. Um, I've also I have also read the first chapter, "If I Were You" by Wodehouse. Um, already, the main character who is an earl and who actually has not officially appeared in a novel yet, has gotten engaged to a young woman who is marrying him essentially just for his money. And his old nurse is coming with her son, a barber. As I mentioned before, step away. As I mentioned before, uh, the two were switched at birth, so we're gonna have some hijinks coming. Um, I read a little bit of the subtle art of not giving an F. Um, Interesting so far, but I've only read a few pages, so um, but that is what I have read today. Now, check in with you tomorrow. Hi, it's Friday, May the 5th. I decided to skip filming yesterday because I tend to be a little talkative. So if I gave updates every day, the video would end up being like 40 to 50 minutes long. So I have finished Agatha Raisin and the Quiche of Death by MC Beaton. It's much better than I originally thought it was going to be. The killer was not a surprise at all, and honestly, the killer was, slight spoiler here. I'm not going to give who the killer was, but I'll let you know the killer was pretty much known. As soon as I start talking, the cat comes here. Pretty much known like 3/4 of the way through. I mean, like I knew it before, but anybody would know it 3/4 of the way through. Why? Why when I start talking? Why? um, as far as I can tell, at least for the moment, was my last MC Beaton book. I know it's a product of like the time, although the time was only like 30, 40 years ago. But she has Miss Beaton, or Marion Chesney, which was her real name, uh, has opinions about things that she just feels like she needs to bring up too many times in her books. And her characters aren't particularly likable. And as I saw with the Hamish Macbeth books, that tend to get worse as the series went on. And this was just the first Agatha Raisin book. So I don't think that this is going to be uh, a series that I will ever continue reading. So that's it for that. I have now moved on for the audiobook to Marlow Murder Club. I believe that's the name of it, by Robert Thorogood. I'm about 5 chapters into it. now. It's got another Miss Marple like character in it, and so far it seems pretty good. One, she's more in line with Miss Marple. She's got a little bit of acidity to her, but she's still very likable, unlike Agatha Raisin, who, to be fair, did get a little bit more likable near the end of the book, but through most of the book, it's just unpleasant to be unpleasant. I have also gotten past the halfway point in If I Were You by PG Wodehouse. It's a decent book. I wouldn't call it one of Wodehouse's best books, at least so far. It was based on a play that I believe that he wrote with Guy Bolton, who is the person that he dedicated the book to. Also, I said before, switched at birth kind of thing. So not a plot that I've seen Woodhouse use before. Although what happens after that, a lot of the same tropes that you get from Woodhouse are in there, but it's still a fairly comic novel. I haven't really read too much more in Louder and Funnier by Woodhouse or in the subtle art of not giving an F, which I'm looking at the book right over there as I see it because I couldn't remember the full name of the title. Uh, I haven't really read anything else. I expect to finish If I Were You, if not tomorrow, then by Sunday. And so until next time. Hi, it's Sunday, May 7th. This is my last vlog of the week. Uh, I have finished If I Were You by PG Wodehouse. Uh, as I mentioned before, it's about babies that were switched. One grew up Earl, one grew up a barber. I'm going to give this a heavy 3 out of 5 stars. I almost gave it a 3.5, but for one, there's not really any real explanation why the mother switched the babies. And I mean, and the mother of the Earl, who was supposed to be a barber, person who switched them, and she spent her life with the barber who was supposed to be an earl, and there's just really no explanation for that except that she drinks. But I mean, pretty much fairly step by step as far as Woodhouse goes. Relationship that comes together, comedy of error stuff. I think the fact that it was based on a play that he wrote. There are different goals as far as plays. It was okay. As far as Woodhouse books goes, it wasn't the best. I've also gotten a little bit of ahead in Louder and Funnier by Woodhouse. I believe I've read 3 essays so far. I have also read a little bit further in The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. Uh, it's not a great read so far. Very repetitive, and the F word, which is one of my favorite curse words, is losing all impact in here because he's just. Maybe this is what he wanted to do, but he just uses it so frequently that it's like the or a. It just doesn't mean anything anymore. I have also started uh, Kiss Her Once for Me. I have a video planned to read 5 romance books because romance books are not something that I commonly read, and this is the first one I'm reading because I've read this author before in a book I read for a book club. I only meant to read like a chapter in 46 pages in. I won't get into it too much because, like I said, I'm reading it for another video plan. So that's going to be it for this week. Please like and subscribe if you like what you're seeing. Like and subscribe if you don't like what you're seeing. Just give me the attention that I desire, but not too much. It makes me feel weird. So I will see you next time.